A quick look at the box reveals the many features of this ready-to-run truck. Portal axles, a 2-speed transmission, dig, locking differentials, full light kit, full ball bearings, full metal gears, adjustable shocks. I'm surprised there aren't cup holders in this thing too.
Guys, we have cup holders.
Hello everyone and welcome. Today I've got the FMS FCX10 Blazer back on the bench. A few months back I had the opportunity to review this all-new 1/10 scale platform, and overall it's a very impressive rig. Combining a capable, feature-packed chassis with a nicely detailed polycarbonate body makes this truck a pretty sweet buy for $400 US. Still though, as good as this truck is out of the box, I felt there were a few parts that could be added to help further enhance the appearance. Of course, if you'd like to learn more about the FCX10, I'd suggest you check out that prior review video, which I'll be linking below in the description. But let's go ahead and dive right into today's project. A couple weeks back I featured another rig from FMS, that being the FJ40 Toyota Land Cruiser. While a similar size, that truck differentiates itself from the FCX10 Blazer by being more targeted towards the die-hard scale trail truck enthusiasts. No portal axles, 2-speed transmission, or dig here, but what you do get is a very nice and well-detailed Land Cruiser hardbody. This rig is solid out of the box, but with a few mods and a little work here and there, I think both the driving experience and the appearance of this truck can be greatly improved, and I'm glad so many of you enjoyed that prior video. Likewise, I think with a few mods, I can elevate the appearance of this K5 Blazer, despite this being more of a blend of crawler and trail truck, unlike that prior FJ40. Right now there's nothing that I want to do mechanically to the truck. I don't need it to be an all-out crawler, so everything electrical and mechanical on this chassis is suitable as is. And honestly, it's pretty good for a ready-to-run truck. Right away though, there were two simple things that I thought would really elevate the appearance. Those being adding an interior and some center caps. So I fired up Autodesk Fusion 360 and got to work. Unlike that prior FJ40, I really like that FMS has included a factory-style set of rally wheels with this Blazer. A simple center cap that can thread onto the end of each axle will really help complete the look. I had a head start with the design since I already modeled a GM rally wheel for another FMS product, so after a bit of scaling and reworking, I was able to make it fit this larger FCX10. I FDM 3D printed some prototypes and eventually a complete set. After a bit of chrome paint and adding some details by hand, they turned out looking pretty nice and fit well. I also SLA printed a set using resin. As you can see, those have a lot better surface finish. I'll get those painted and installed at some point, but really when you're looking at this truck from several feet away, like you do when you're driving, you really don't see the layering on these FDM printed ones, so for now I've just been running the truck with this set installed. If you decide to print a set for yourself, hopefully you find them to be a good fit and they thread securely onto the end of each axle. If they're a little loose and you're FDM 3D printing the center caps, you can try increasing the extrusion width just a bit and see if that helps. You could also use a little bit of thread lock or some mild adhesive to keep them on, but you just want to be careful not to gum up the threads for when you need to take the wheel off. The center caps are a nice touch, but now I want to move on to designing an interior. When this truck is driving around, especially in the bright sun, you can see right down to the chassis below, which obviously doesn't look the best. Though I still appreciate FMS didn't just black out the windows altogether. To make installing the interior piece as easy as possible, I wanted to make the rear of it mount to the body using the same screws that hold on the roll bar. Just like with the FJ40 before, the Moose 3D scanner from 3D Maker Pro was a big help. I was able to easily scan the inside of the body and use that to aid in the design of this custom interior piece. I used some real-world photos as a reference and began designing the interior. I wasn't overly concerned about perfect accuracy or having a super high level of detail. Just about anything will be better than nothing, though I did still try to make it look somewhat like the real thing. Along with making sure that the interior will fit the body and mount with the pre-existing hardware, I also wanted to make the interior relatively shallow to ensure there is plenty of room below for the battery and electronics. This shallower interior might make adding a driver figure more of a challenge, but there should be no issues with having room underneath for any electronics. Initially, I designed the interior so that the main tub and seats could be FDM 3D printed, while the smaller parts like the column and shift levers could be printed separately using resin. I have designed a more simplistic steering column and steering wheel that can be easily FDM 3D printed. On this column, there are some holes on the side where you can insert some small size rods that can be cut to length and made to look like a gear shift, column tilt lever, and turn signal lever. To add further detail to this interior, I'll be utilizing one of our 4-spoke racing wheels and a rear view mirror. I'll provide the links to those products below in the description. Once the design was complete, I 3D printed each part and did a quick test fit. With all the parts looking good, I got each one of them painted. I was considering painting the interior a lighter color and adding some more details. However, I decided to keep things simple and just painted everything black. Though I did add a bit of variation by using matte black, black plasti dip, and gloss black for certain parts. I used a silver Sharpie and some chrome pens to add a few details before gluing everything in place. Very simple, but I think it's really going to add to the overall look of the truck once installed. To secure the front section of the interior, I'll use Velcro, which will hold the interior in place securely, but will still allow it to be completely removable if needed. Installing the interior is very simple. Just remove the front 2 screws holding the roll bar in place, remove the plastic discs, put the interior in place, and then reinstall the screws. Of course, if you'll be including a rear view mirror, you can glue that in first. If you can't get the screws to thread into the roll bar, you might have to remove the rear cap if you have it installed and hold the roll bar in place. The interior is a little hard to see with the tinted window decals. Some may consider carefully cutting around the edge of each window decal and removing the tinted section in the center if you'd like to make the interior more visible. While it is a bit harder to show on camera, in person I actually sort of like this combination of a dark colored interior and tinted windows, as the interior is visible enough to know that it's there, but you don't immediately realize it's so shallow unless you really have a closer look. Painting the interior a lighter color like tan or red, which I think would look really cool with one of the black K5 Blazers, would make it more visible. But if you want a more subtle effect, painting it black like I did here looks pretty good. One other thing I did was add some panel lines using a panel line marker, and I also used a chrome pen for the drip rails. Of course, masking and using an airbrush would certainly produce a better result, though also take quite a bit more time. Before I thought the body looked a little plain, though at the same time these panel lines do stand out quite a bit. I think I did a better job with the right side than the left side, which I think is a little bit too thick in spots. I would say it is an overall improvement, I think especially when viewing it from a few feet away, but here's basically what it looks like in case you want to add some panel lines to your truck. Not only would masking and using an airbrush look better, but if you mixed some dark orange paint for the orange sections of the body, and then maybe something like a dark gray for the white sections of the body, that would probably look better than the stark black panel lines that I have here. Overall, a cool looking truck that looks even better with these additional mods. I had a ton of fun designing and 3D printing these custom parts, and I think it helps take the appearance just a bit further. I have posted the STL files for the interior and wheel center caps over on Patreon, links below in the description as always, along with the steering wheel and rear view mirror that I used. One thing that's probably worth pointing out is that the performance of this Blazer has certainly not been improved with the addition of this interior. It's not super heavy, but it is putting some weight in a spot that's not really ideal, just something to be aware of. These might be items that we sell as products, and if we do, I'll include some links to them as well in the description, but right now I'm not sure. I don't know what the demand would be or what people would be willing to pay for an interior like this. Also, if we print these in materials such as PLA or PETG, you have to be mindful not to get the interior too hot. Probably wouldn't be an issue unless you're really baking the truck out in the sun or storing it in a really hot environment, but still something to keep in mind with many 3D printed items. 3D printing in a heat-resistant material is an option, but not only would it be much more challenging to print, it would also make the interior kits way more expensive, probably far beyond what just about anyone would want to pay. That said though, if you would be interested in buying these parts already 3D printed, let me know below in the comments. If there's sufficient interest, we could print up a few and see how they sell. Otherwise, they'll just fit onto a standard 200 by 200mm build platform, making them suitable to print on many hobby FDM 3D printers. I do want to give a shout out to the shop Mini RC here on YouTube. They reached out to me very early on when I posted some pictures during the design of this interior, and I wanted to send one their way to install and see what they think. They primarily focus on smaller scale RC vehicles and do very in-depth and thorough reviews, usually a complete teardown of a vehicle, so certainly a good resource if you want to learn more about the vehicle or learn how it goes together. Their FCX10 literally went off a cliff during the initial review, but apparently he's got a new body to use for a Shelf Queen build, so that'll be awesome to see. Definitely check out the shop Mini RC here on YouTube. I will of course be linking that channel below in the description. Overall, a very fun little project, and I'm looking forward to getting this FCX10 back on the trails. That is going to be all for this video though. As always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.